Hello, everybody. Happy Con of Champions to you all. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you for the third session today. I don't know about all of you, but I'm having a fantastic Con of Champions thus far. Several of you chose to spend some of your Con of Champions with us at Minor Realm Games this morning and this afternoon. I am humbled and I appreciate your attendance there. So this is the main event for Minor Realm Games for the night. So we did some webinars today. We got to meet several dozen of you throughout the day virtually, albeit considered. I think this Con of Champions event for tabletop events has been nothing short of a success thus far. But that being said, call to action from us at Minor Realm Games or two things. Well, three things. Number one, have fun, and we hope you enjoy tonight's tonight's main event. Number two, tabletop events is in dire need right now of your contribution and your patronage, supporting them through this time. Obviously, the pandemic has affected small businesses and individuals everywhere, near and far. The gaming industry, one in particular, particularly affected by this event with coronavirus. We can't get together in the rooms in the gaming halls like we're typically accustomed to. And tabletop events is a business that's entire revenue stream is based around these conventions happening and folks going in and scheduling through their website. So thus, Con of Champions was birthed in an effort to support that. So if you want to head over to tabletop events this evening / Con of Champions, I think the link's now in the Twitch chat. Throw them $1 or $2 if you can. It really helps keeping our gaming partners thriving. Third, I guess soft rule is if you like the content that you see here, stay tuned and give us a follow with that little button right up top there. We are proud to be able to bring you tonight's first installment of our original gaming module, Clock Strike 0, that comes out this summer 2020, and we're going to be playing it over the next several weeks for you guys live on Twitch. So my name is Bill. I am the founder of Minor Realm Games, and I will be your game master throughout this saga. And I'd love to introduce the rest of my comrades in arms in my company, in my crusade here, as we take on a bite of the world and try to define our own piece of the legacy and the story to be written. And I would like to first introduce JP. JP, would you like to say a few words?
Hi all, I'm JP. I wear a lot of hats at Minor Realm Games. And I'm playing Cal Greenglass, who is a halfling thief. Happy-go-lucky sort of guy with humble beginnings. We'll see where he develops from there.
Yeah. Awesome. Matt?
Yeah. Hi there. I'm Matt. I play a human ranger, Lundy Bellcamp, and he's been wandering around in the wilderness for quite a while, but has found a new passion for mischief, camaraderie, adventure, and reputation, roughly in that order.
Awesome. Hey, Dave. Back again for our viewers.
Yep, I am Dave. You might have seen me the other day with Bill. I spearhead a lot of the social media presence we have so far. And tonight I'll be playing Ragnar Wartooth. He's a young dwarf fighter, bent on vengeance for his father's murder. And you'll see him probably get his butt kicked tonight because he's going to be up front, getting hot and heavy.
Awesome. And Mike, last but not least.
You got it. Yeah. So I'm Mike. I've been working with Bill to actually get things ready for a technical perspective. So all the website stuff is going to be being done partially by me, partially by Matt. And I'm playing Varys of Safray, who is a half-elf cleric. He has been through a lot already in his life, but he's now sort of taking the reins of one of the religions of the land, which we'll get to. But I'm really excited to play him. He's a really interesting character.
Yeah. Well, this is Minor Realm Games, everyone. You've been seeing a lot of my ugly mug for the last few days. I promised I actually had other folks here that are adding their own particular skill sets. From a meta perspective, much like any adventuring party, we all offer our own attributes, and we hope to bring you awesome content and entertainment over the next few months by way of our first module, Clock Strike 0. So without further ado, gentlemen, shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Yep.
So, As you might know, your party quickly became fast friends over the last several weeks. Broadly speaking, you've been traveling across the continent of Ziaris, from the west, dominated now mostly in modern times by the humans, the elves, and a sort of a sprinkling in of other racial variety. The west predominantly ruled by King Creans IV from the legendary civilization of Herlevek. Lundy and Cal, you met along the way in the southwest of Ziaris. Cal, kind of from early beginnings, is seeking a purpose of his own, seeking edification and knowledge wherever he can get his hands on it. But it didn't always come easy. With not a lot of coin in Cal's pocket, but a lot of opportunity and promise ahead, he quickly learned how to acquire things in sneaky and crafty manner. Lundy, a peaceful, solitary, isolated ranger from the Mountains of Green, the Green Mount, north of Herlevek, just came into the civilization, into the broader, sort of city one day, ended up getting swept up, whisked away by the notion of adventure and defending the townspeople from some raiders. And he thought, well, I don't want any of these plain Janes here in this boring kingdom. I want to go south where the real adventurers might find themselves hiding out. And he and Cal Greenglass met several weeks ago. In the east, that is now dominated by the elves, the proper elves of the legendary bloodlines, and the dwarves of Raymore, Ragnar and Varys found themselves, two young fellows meeting at the port town of Riverton. And through conversation, you both realized you shared a lot of similarities, not just in faith and virtue, but a more purposeful mission and affect on life. And thus, you left the east, all you'd ever known in your entire lives, to start heading west. And in this convergence, in this confluence on the byways, each half of your party met one another on Roland Pass in the south. And you had to work quickly together to defend yourselves from some thieves and some enemies and more of these raiders that continue to infest Ziaris. And you realize, kind of looking across from one another, action movie style, that there might be something to this chemistry that you developed. So Lundy, as sort of the self-proclaimed but also seasoned leader of this group, asked if you might be willing to go back to Herlevek, far to the northeast of the continent, and petition yourselves and propose yourselves before the High Court of King Creans IV, and ask if you might take on a formal engagement as a guild. You know that's where the money, the acclaim, and the recognition truly come from at the end of the day. But it's a long travel back. It's 120, 130 plus miles back north. And adventurers, even as hardy as you might be in your early fledgling budding years, you all need rest. And that is where we will begin in the modest settlement of Blackworm. That's where we begin tonight's adventures. So you, let me just change gears here. There we go. So our story begins with these humble men hailing from their various walks of life in places across the broad and infamous continent of Ziaris, set in this wondrous place known as the Minor Realm. The summer months are winding down. We swiftly head into the autumnal season. You've had your first couple of scraps together, combat either for war or for sport. First the harvest, then the decay, and a long winter are ahead of you as the months typically proceed here in this world. And as I mentioned, you are a party that is budding into fantastic adventurers. Adventurers that they felt like truly they could always become. But mostly, we're all friends here. Aspiring heroes, albeit, but valiant, strong, purposeful, skilled, and tactful, each in your own ways. So, as I just mentioned, you spent the last few weeks traveling about 120 miles or so all around the southern half of the land, west and east. You helped rid the small, isolated settlement of Dravenport in the west of their nasties in exchange for some food and beds, Lundy and Cow, and a bit of silver. You chased off some goblins from the farms of Hillstead, a meager hamlet in need of some muscle, and then you found yourself on Rolling Pass, You had your share of pints along the way. You've laughed, you've bled, but now you know what lies ahead. There's destiny, fate, fame, and fortune, and a defined purpose. You must get to Herlevek and into King Kranz's chambers. And from the east, our two young bucks, Varys and Ragnar. You're just looking for a bigger purpose to this all, with your own personal motives completely intact. But as I mentioned, parties must rest at some point. So yesterday, as a group, you'd made the decision to continue the journey northward on Roland Pass, with the intention of stopping in this unassuming little settlement known as Blackworm. Blackworm was named after the folklore of the East became more widespread in the West, folklore that Ragnar and his people of Remor know all too well. Blackworm today is home to several hundred humans, elves, and half-elves mostly. Your party is vaguely familiar with this town. Its notable features including the perimeter of beautiful maple and paradise apple trees, the shined cobblestone streets, the placid and majestic gazing pond, but of course, its most historic and notable feature, the clock tower. Blackworm is a bit isolated from the rest of the Ziaran society. Its nobles and founders conduct the vast majority of economic and geopolitical diplomacy and keep the town relatively secured, secluded, and well-funded, most importantly of all. While technically under the jurisdiction of the king, it's mostly left to independently manage itself. The town of Blackworm, as you recall, independently and respectively, is not one of high crime, and frankly, not even much of a stir is to be caused across most seasons and most years. Although the occasional traders who make their ways in to meet at the village or clock court, displaying and pawning their wares, will occasionally bring a raucous sort of with them. They've swiftly been dealt with in the past from the townspeople, very self-sufficient, again, very isolationist. So, moreover, it's this place as any to stay for you guys and find some respite and prepare your discussions for the High Court and High Magistrate in the massive sort of metropolitan area that Lundy is very familiar with out ahead. So you found your way into the town in the evening hours, and you spend an hour or so sort of looking around. The crisp harvest air, the waning moon, and the hue of the green gas lamps with torches sort of sparingly in the sconces outside of the shops and storefronts make for a rather cozy environment on the stroll into Blackworm. But one thing sort of strikes you as odd. It is quiet, and there are not a whole lot of citizens sort of walking around throughout the evening. So it strikes you as a little bit creepy and a little bit unsettling. People not making much eye contact with you, even though you are adventurers and obviously foreigners. And the lights themselves casting a bit of a haunting, sort of mysterious, kind of cold kind of look across the landscape in this town. But nonetheless, although few townspeople occupy the streets at this hour, you see a carriage or two pass on by with the clicks and clomps of the freshly shoed hooves of the horses meeting against the ambience of cricket chirps in the hills and the perimeter plain. While many a hostel and or inn are available with vacancy, you found yourself most comfortable, Lundy particularly, with a place known as Penard's Inn on the north side of town. It's a bit rough around the edges. It's a bit rustic in appearance, just how you kind of like it. And as you make your way inside, it's approaching sort of the like the 9:30, 10 o'clock hour in the evening. You find the gentleman that identifies, or at least you overhear somebody referring to him in this big open space as Ivor Penard, a burly old retired blacksmith, and the proprietor and head bartender of this adventurer-friendly inn located on Harvest Way in the Clock Court district. The inn features about 9 rough-hewn tables that sit approximately 5 apiece, seemingly rarely filled, and especially not this evening, but the place's lighting and the decor seem rather welcoming for a bunch such as yourselves. A long bar made of oak and maple spans the length of the back wall of the building. A modest open kitchen pumps out bread and soup even at this late hour. The place doesn't look like much upon first glance. However, this sort of 2 or 3 story, 5,000 or so square foot haunt and hotel seems like it's filled with rich history, with all sorts of peculiar artifact all over the walls, whether it be retired weaponry or armor or portraits of battle scenes. It was rumored that this place was a wartime resting place for many a soldier in the endless war. an epic war that you know of that divided the land of Ziaris ages and ages ago. But from what you know now and from what you see, from dwarves and elves and others, traders and travelers, its halls still, even in this hour, sing with merriment and the shanty of many adventurer. Although over your first few minutes, it's tough to get a drink and it's tough to get any engagement from the ownership. You kind of make your bid a few times at the end of the bar, and as the night sort of slows down and begins to become a bit more quiet, it gets a little calm. And then old Pinard, the burly old blacksmith, begins to pour you guys a few stiff drinks and heads over your way to ask you where you're coming from.
So before we start talking, do I see any, like, knowing he's a ex-blacksmith, do I see any of his pieces throughout the inn?
You would presume so, yeah. A lot of them actually have his sort of insignia on it, a little in the little signature at the end of the blade or the end of the hammer, and sort of these particularly interesting-looking jewels that are attached to several of them, and even some sort of badges around them, and some plaques with his name on it. So you would assume at least 50 or 60% of the stuff hanging around the walls are his.
They look like quality pieces?
Looks like it, yeah.
Cool.
So I'll greet old Pinard. I'm assuming I've met him at least in passing, maybe once, and I'll say, "Yep, hello, Pinard. How's business been?" And I definitely reach for the drink that he's offering.
He says, "Oh, it's been fine. You know, things always tend to heat up around this time of the year. Once the harvest rolls out and everyone comes for the apples, we tend to get a couple of other patrons here and there. But overall, you know, what more can I ask for than just a couple more adventurers to take some rest in this place?"
Ivor. I can call you Ivor, can't I?
Sure.
Well, Ivor, do you happen to have any cider, perchance? This ale is fine and all, but I'm sure with your apples you probably have something a little bit fresh, and I'll be glad to partake of your acquaintance.
Yeah, he does. He says, "Of course." He says, "The next batch comes out in 2 weeks when the harvest finishes, but we have some early drafts." And he kind of pours you a big foamy one and lets it sort of settle and places a small tankard up on the bar top.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you asked where we're going?
And he says, "And where you're coming from?"
Oh yes, that is a good question. I think that's a rather large question though, because we've all come from different places, didn't we?
He says, "Well, humor me."
I guess you could say.
Raymore.
Yeah.
Raymore?
That's a long way, lad.
Figured I had nothing better to do.
Says,
Met Varys along the way here, on my way.
He says, "Well, that seems lovely. It's always good to have your kind in the West. We need more of them."
Well, I come from the mountains, the Green Mountains up north, but since I have your attention, I'm curious, why, with all these apples around, is this village called Blackworm?
And he says, "The boy," as he sort of nods over to Ragnar a little bit, "the boy might know quite a bit about that, huh? Coming from Remor." He goes, "I suppose the founders, the Davisters and McSpeaces, caught wind years and years ago of the black dragon that plagues the East." And,
that kind of worm.
yes.
You see Ragnar's eyes kind of just go dead and just some anger building underneath.
I slide Ragnar my untaken drink and I focus on the cider.
He just slams it.
Yeah. Silly
Al
name.
takes a tentative sip of his drink and gives a little cough. Blimey, that's a stiff one, isn't it?
He says, "That's how we make them here. We serve an adventurer's drink. Not every townsfolk can appreciate this type of beverage." Ha ha.
Well, speaking of townsfolk, where are they?
He says, "Well, they're in for the evening. On this time of the year, Lundy, perhaps you recall, townsfolk get a little weary and a little apprehensive about spending too much time outside at night. The ghosts start to howl in the winds. People fear what might happen what happened years and years ago to revisit us again. Well, that's old folk tale. I wouldn't want to bore you.
My my friends, new friends here, Ragnar and Varys, haven't heard that story. Maybe, perhaps you could tell them a bit about it.
Well, there were a series of awful storms that hit us for 3 harvests in a row. Yeah, and many were killed. The storms were inexplicable, and they seemed to be isolated specifically to our little town. And, well, many rumor that their ghosts still walk amongst the streets, and they come back around this time just before the apples are put into bushels and barrel, to warn those in town to not stay here for the rest of their lives, as the storms and the cataclysm will return.
Seems like a great way of instituting a curfew. But not sure how much I believe in that. Ghost, you say? I mean, and just inexplicably, I mean, storms happen. I mean, why would there be anything nefarious about that?
Not these types of storms, lad. These were storms that specifically struck down very particular individuals. Well, one that comes to mind is the old church in St. Ethan's. Everybody that was there in the evening mass was killed, all at once. But the clouds and the lightning and the wind seemed to chase those that fled, particularly the old priests and high deacons.
Is the church still here?
Aye.
And I take it it's been since vacant.
It's now referred to as the haunted halls. We can hear their wailing and their moans. It's not pleasant, but the drink helps drown it out.
Are you sure that's not just the wind? But no, go on. I'm sorry.
Tell me, Ivor, where do the people tend to report these ghosts manifesting?
He says, well, all over, but particularly that site, just a few blocks away in Clock Court. It's not to be reckoned with. We tell everyone in town, traveler or resident, stay away. Well, anyway, I must tend to other guests, as he sort of nods down to the end of the bar, and you see this interesting little gnome down there, and Cal, you specifically pick up on pipe smoke with a lot of vanilla and sort of a rich, sort of earthy kind of scent to it. Something that you might want actually in the end of your pipe, and the smoke sort of clings to the air at this far side of the bar, and kind of hangs in this moment. And as it rises, sort of ever so delicately, you hear this tapping sound, and you see through that vanilla scented smoke that it's, and with a little bit of dim candlelight on them, that it's providing this soft incandescence against the face of this old little gnome. And he sits there in this red overblouse and these patchy brown trousers, and with a very unkempt gray beard, a big bulbous nose, and little black button eyes. And as you get done talking and sort of asking questions of Ivor, you can tell that he's almost mocking you a little bit. You hear a little silly, quiet chuckle pour from his mouth, exposing these yellow, gangly teeth that kind of stick out that are crooked. And he shakes his head a little back and forth to himself for a moment. And he says, adventuring isn't all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes one should be so grateful to just find themselves in service of another. To care for something so deeply, you'd die for that. Not for coin or to become a hero. That's wasteful. But to be the hero to a family at home, now that's life. And he looks around and kind of attempts to cheers. Nobody around him, but you can tell he's speaking loud enough to sort of mock you a little bit.
I kind of glance over at Ragnar to see how he's taking this.
What a fool.
Well, there is some wisdom in his. There is some wisdom that he's stating, but use some tact.
I actually approached the gnome and
He looks,
ask him how his family is.
and he says, "My time was spent with my family for most of my life. I was in servitude to them. Now, everyone here in this quaint little town of ours is family to me. And that is what's important. And who might you be?" As he bats his little beady eyes at you and takes a little sip out of his mug.
Lundy, I wander the land and look for adventure that you seem to think so ill of.
No, that sounds dumb.
Well, I've been called worse.
I say to Varys, he sounds dumb.
Cal makes his way over. Pardon me, friend. Can you spare a bowl full of that tobacco?
And he says, "Sure, why not?" And he takes out a little pouch out of his overblouse, like kind of in a little coat pocket. And from somewhere, he just takes it and just gives you a little bit of just like a little kind of sack of it, and just pushes it over and says, "Have at it."
Yeah, I happily pack my pipe and musingly say, you know, not all of us are fortunate enough to have families to serve.
And he says, "Well, anyone can be your family. It doesn't matter if you're related by blood or just by circumstance."
And this is where Varys speaks up. He says, "What if my family is strewn out a little bit larger? What if I don't have a small family? What if my family is everyone? Would it be foolish for me to adventure in order to take care of them?"
That's a lot of mouths to feed.
It certainly is, and thankfully I'm not too concerned about that, but only as far as I can affect, if you understand. My goal is to improve the lives of everyone that I can. Is that foolish?
Well, maybe not, but it seems like a very difficult journey.
Nothing worth doing is easy.
What if the adventuring is done to right the wrongs that have been done to your family? How do you feel about it then?
Well, I suppose that some adventuring parties have their place in this world, as long as there's purpose behind it and meaning, and that you intend to serve others. That's all we're really here for at the end of the day, right? To help serve others.
I raise my glass to that.
He raises his in exchange.
Different paths to a similar end.
Sure.
Bill, just a little bookkeeping note. I will track Pinard down and secure a room for us for a couple nights, and actually back the gnome up on a drink.
Sure. Yeah. So Bernard says not to worry about getting into the particulars this evening, but a few gold will cover you guys for 2 double rooms for about 2 days. Just tip in the servers with copper pieces at breakfast if you're going to have extra eggs or have them running. He explains. He's pretty casual and laid back. He actually pulls his own flask out of his sort of leather sort of apron, and he takes a nip out of it, and he says he just kind of laughs with this half smile and with an exhale and says, "Oh, that old bastard, always in here trying to give unsolicited advice." And he just takes a sip and he says, "Well, anyway, I'll grab him another." And he goes,
I asked Pinard, did he have a family?
he says, "He was let go from the Davister estate. He was their servant for many, many years, and they no longer required his services. He's been coming in here and drinking himself to death ever since. And he makes himself handy in the town during the day, helps the kids and the urchins get along, and makes sure that he lifts any of them that might fall into the pond. And he helps the bakery, Maggie's. He helps her bring out trays of her muffins and cakes in the morning, and he tries to make himself useful. Harmless, really, in nature, but I apologize for his rudeness nonetheless."
Yeah, he's harmless.
Ragnar calls out to Ivor, says, "Speaking of advice, go get him his drink, but when you get back, I want want to get some tips from you. And I point to like all of his blacksmithing pieces, and I say, I'm a little bit of a smith myself. And I kind of point to my armor, and I hold retribution, my war axe, and kind of be like,
he he clumsily, you can tell that the good old Ivor Bernard is getting a little intoxicated himself. He's taking a couple of little nips out of that flask, and he carelessly almost stumbles as he slides another tankard down for the old gnome. And he kind of looks around and kind of has these glazed sort of eyes, and he says, "Oh, it's been a long time. That was my past life." And he says, "You made that piece there yourself, you say, huh?"
it's my pride and joy. This is retribution. I hand him the axe if he wants to look at him, and I go, that on top, that's pure Remlinite right there. That's my father Ulfgar's prized mining possession.
His
That's
eyes,
the biggest he ever found.
his eyes go completely wide. He says, "Remlinite? Oh, a real dwarf you are, lad. A real dwarf you are.
Raymore bred and born.
It's been a long time since I've seen Remlinite, especially fashioned and cut so finely to be placed atop retribution. My ad is off to you, sir. You will make a fine blacksmith."
I appreciate that. Thank you.
He says, "Perhaps we can talk at a later time. Ugh, maybe this old dog still has a few tricks left in him to show you."
I kind of cheers him a little bit. Sounds like a plan. I look forward to it.
As you guys kind of continue engaging with the gnome and with Ivor, the proprietor of the inn here, a little bit of time wears on. You know, you're had a couple drinks. You're tired. Sort of the night is pressing on, so to speak, and you know, just as sort of you're kind of getting ready to kind of depart from the bar, things are closing down. A lot of the candles are being put out, and the night's sort of nearing its logical conclusion. The heavy wooden door at the front of Penard's swings open and slams off of the wall behind it, and you see this mousy, sort of thin, sort of average height, red-headed woman wearing a gray bonnet and this cream-colored dress. You can tell that it's raining outside. A bit of a rainstorm has picked up, so you definitely headed indoors at the right time. She has this sort of drenched shawl that's draped over her, and she rushes to the bar over to Ivor Bernard in a bit of a panic. And she overhears, she goes and says, "Oh, Ivor, please, you have to help me. My Lawrence has wandered off. He's been drawing pictures of the halls of Old St. Ethan's. Some of the older boys from town have been daring him to go there for days, and I'm just so frightened that he's wandered there. He's not in his bed, and I haven't." And Bernard says, "All right now, Ellie, all right." He says, "We'll find the boy. We'll find him."
I actually elbow Barris. I say, it looks like you might be able to satisfy your curiosity a little sooner than we thought about that church.
Actually, I pick up and I kind of, I kind of like pick my head over and I sort of call out to the miss. "Excuse me, miss. It sounds like you had some troubles at the haunted halls."
I can't be certain, but I feel that my Lawrence has wandered off there. The boys from town, they pick on him, and they've been telling him that if he wants to prove himself as a man, that he'll spend the night in the old church.
Lawrence is your son.
Yes. One
How
of my two boys. Lawrence is just 10. He's just 10 years old.
That's quite brave of him to go to the haunted halls by himself. Do you know if maybe he was with him?
I don't think so. He doesn't have many friends, and his younger brother's far too young to go. He's at home.
I ask her, you're positive that's where he went?
He's been drawing pictures of the old church at home, and I know that the boys from town have been daring him to go there, and he's always in bed. I always tell him a good night story and put him in bed at the same time every evening, and he's gone. I've looked all over town, but I fear that it might have come to the worst.
Friends, I mean, I don't think that we should let this woman, sleep at disease tonight.
I asked Bernard. Bernard, did they keep that place locked up? Can people get in there easily?
I fear what can get in there would be of enough capacity to. As he looks down and puts his shoulder away from the young woman, endanger that little boy. Townspeople are meant to stay out, but it is a vulnerable structure.
You mentioned that you might be of assistance to her. I mean, could you offer us any aid? I mean, if we were to go there tonight, for example.
He said, as he comes out from behind the bar, you notice that he's missing one of his legs, and that he's got sort of this wooden prosthetic there, and he's actually got he's been hiding his left hand the entire time behind there. That is basically removed from the forearm down, and he's walking with a cane and a bit of a limp, as you see sort of from his midsection down to the floor. And he says, "Well, I'm afraid I would only get in your way." And you hear from the end of the bar as a big patch of sort of the vanilla pipe smoke comes down, and he says, "But I might be willing to lend some assistance."
Oh, fuck, this guy. He just won't
My
quit.
God. Hey, you never know. You never know. He might be of some help.
Have you
I
ever
suppose
been
we
in?
should hear him out.
What is your name, sir?
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't know if you had heard his name.
You might call me Mr. Gorgel.
Mr. Gogel. Well, Mr. Gogel, I mean, how would you... This might be dangerous.
Just because I feel like adventuring is foolish doesn't mean I'm not able to take care of myself, boy.
I asked Gojel, have you been in there before in the structure?
Not since it was condemned, but I feel prepared. We must find Lawrence after all. And Ellie says, "Oh, yes, the old man is right. It would mean the world to me if you could find my boy. I would repay you in any way possible."
I look at Cal and I say, "What do you think? Could we use some bait?"
Bait could be useful.
I'd like to measure him up. I mean, can I just take stock of, like, I mean, what kind of presence does he have? Does he look useful at all? Does it look like he's been, like, in a fight before?
Not really, no.
Mr. Gorgel, how are you in a scrap?
He says, "Well, and he kind of sizes you up, Cal, and he says, much like you, nimble, quick."
You know how to stay out of the way, then.
"Yes. My assistance is not on the front lines like that one," he points to Ragnar.
Well, Mr. Rogel, you seem to know this area much better than me and my friends here. And you probably have set foot in the haunted halls a time or two yourself. So would you know of a way in there to go discreetly?
"I believe that I could get us inside, and I'll look after you."
I mean,
I-
I'd not want to turn down
I-
help.
I shrugged my shoulders and I was like, "Fine, come with us then. We're leaving now."
Ellie says, "Oh, thank you, thank you. When you find my boy, I'll be right here. Ivar, will you at least..." He says, "Of course, Ellie. I'll stay open."
I'll give you fair warning, Gojel. This might be stupid.
He says, "Well, stupid is as stupid does."
Well, that's adventure for you.
I slap Ragnar in the back and I'll say, hey, looks like we want to get some action aids a little bit sooner than we expected.
Yeah. Ragnar's visibly excited, but he looks to go, "John, just stay the hell out of my way."
Yep.
Actually,
And he's going to head towards the door to head to the church.
I pull Mr. Rogel aside and actually say, stay the hell out of his way.
Gorgel kind of just nods and he just smiles through it with his sort of chipped and gangly teeth showing, and you could he has a little cane of his own, this tiny little cane, and he's just kind of hobbling along behind you guys, and he says, all right, we will find your boy, Mrs. Smithton. We will find him." And he comes out through the front door with you guys. Big rainstorm has started to kick up outside, but Mr. Gorgel tells you that the old St. Ethan's isn't too far from here. It's right in the same district. It's just a few blocks away. And as you make your walk over, the rain slows A little bit, so you're not totally drenched. It's sort of drizzling, and the wind's just sort of whipping some of the raindrops around. He tells you, Gorgel, the haunted halls are fondly remembered as the original site for the old St. Ethan's of Enlightenment. But after years of the brutal storms, the building was destroyed, and unfortunately with it, many townspeople. And the old priest, Father Reineck, he was inside, and he was struck by lightning. And he says, there may be rats, there may be critters that creep around the remaining bits of the physical structure. It's rumored that ghosts, however, will still walk the night. And we have all heard some strange noises. You can hear them through the 0 hour, as he says. You guys are...
Trying to
Zero
spook this
hour?
old man.
I was going to say, you're not entirely familiar with the notion of the 0 hour.
Yeah, I asked what he means by that. Midnight?
He says, sure, yes, something like that. You see, this town isn't really what it used to be. As you can tell, even the clock tower doesn't chime anymore. You've been here for several hours. So he kind of looks up, and you can see this clock tower from anywhere. It's hundreds of feet tall.
It's how long has it been since it worked as a clock?
And he says, hey, he kind of starts counting on his hands as you're taking the walk. At least 30 years. And he says, it is stuck always in the 7th position, the 7th segment of the harvest. The 0 hour is when farmers and workers and commoners must get rest. But during that hour, the unrest of the dead come to life. And that cacophony can be heard anywhere throughout our town. And then you start to hear these moans and cries echoing from the alleyways and the street corners as you see the old, decrepit and demolished, partly demolished church building through some of the houses as it stands up a few stories high with its roof half caved in, several of the spire and pillar around it sort of crumbled and decaying. And he tells you, Mr. Gurgel, he says, it's a big building, several stories. We're going to have to move quickly in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if even the building's condition alone poses grave danger for us.
I was about to ask how sturdy it looked.
Yeah, not terribly. A lot of the stone in the roof is sort of it's all falling down.
So with his mining background and dwarven background, Ragnar is going to try to find like any rooms that look specifically bad and be like, so we know what to avoid. Do you want me to roll for that for the dwarven?
Yeah, go ahead and roll now and just keep that number in mind as you guys make your entrance through one of the plausible sort of ingresses of this old, just ruined church.
Do you want to know that number or just when it comes up?
When it comes up.
Okay.
So
Varys clasps the amulet around his neck and just says a few small words under his breath.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting and unsettling sight. Mr. Gorgel takes you what presumably was the sort of west entrance. Two large arched doors hang rather loosely attached to the frame. Old stained glass mosaic and window designs sort of partially shattered and some covered in dust and cobweb, dingy sort of around the frame of the exposed interior. A bar blocks off the doors. It's actually sort of the bar itself is actually falling down through sort of the slot, so you can tell that it could probably, with a little bit of might, just be plucked right off of this thing, as it's almost like kind of falling toward the frame. And there's two sort of stone banisters that are crumbled themselves. The stone stairwell, probably 6 feet or so wide and chipped. So what do you guys do?
I asked Mr. Gogel. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna sort of indicate to Cal, like, see if he's assessed the situation for less direct ways into the place.
Are there, are there windows or holes that, that are accessible?
Yeah. So around the sort of the south side of the building, as it's sort of at a diagonal angle, plotted on the east side of town here. You've definitely seen some exposed openings in the stonework that someone with sort of your nimble, quick feet and stature could easily get through. You would be concerned about the party getting through some of those safely. You're not really sure what would be on the other side. There is an entrance on the east side, but there is a big pile of stone and wood and shingles and roofing that has been left there, sort of in this pile of debris. It is covered. It would probably take a while to move out of the way. The doors in the structure, though, along that facade seem to be more intact than those of the west side of the structure.
So, Lundy is carefully watching Gojol to see if he can tell if the gnome is fixated or focused on any part of the structure more so than other parts.
Yeah, he stands with his cane, sort of one hand clasped over the other on top of the sort of the top of the cane, and he just has his arms folded center, and he stands at the bottom of that stairwell on the west side, and he just sort of looks up at one of these cracked, dusty stained glass windows, sort of ovular shaped, up near the second story, and he just waits quietly.
Mr. Gogel, you were 10 years old once, weren't you? You know, very brazen and bold as we all once were. How would you get in here if you wanted to? If you were so inclined.
Says, I'd probably go through a little hole, find my way in. Now, it's not to disturb anybody else in town. It's not to be seen. Fit my little self through there, although I haven't grown much since then.
Well, if we deal with this bar, we can see whether this door is locked. If it is, I'll climb through a hole, see if I can open it from the inside.
I can take a look at this bar, see if I can remove it.
That's true. Yeah, you probably could lift this bar straight off. It doesn't look. It looks to be sort of haphazardly, sort of resting here. Yeah, you can go ahead and give that a just a lift gate or something of that nature check.
I've got bend bars.
Yeah,
open doors.
yeah.
Bend bars.
Yep. Yeah.
That is a 22.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You're able to go up to this thing. You sort of look over for acknowledgement. Is like, should I just pull this thing right off of the goddamn frame? And party's like, sure. And you just, boof, you pull it off. And one of the big arched doors actually almost wants to come off right along with it. A bunch of little spiders start crawling out of the edge of the archway of the door. It hangs this big old wooden door, chipped and splintered, sort of just almost falls actually on top of you. You have to put up a hand after you toss the bar over the side of the stone banister to keep the door there. You can just pick it up and
Ragnar
lean it.
throws the door to the side, and he's just like,
Yep.
trying to get the spiders off of him.
Yeah, you toss the door over, the door breaks in half and just splashes into this big puddle in the yard of this old church. You've exposed the interior to what looks like the main congregation hall, and you just dust those spiders off of yourself. There's your entrance.
Well, let's go in.
I'll lead the way.
So whimsically said, by the way. Like, well, all right, let's go in.
On the way in, I'll take a more careful look at the window that the gnomes seem to be looking at, just to see if there's anything unusual about it.
Yeah. As you guys start to define your marching order, you take another glance, Lundy. He's still Mr. Gorgel, with the rain sort of just pitter pattering and splashing off of his brow. He hasn't really locked unlocked or broken his concentration from that window, and you catch a bit of a red sort of glare, almost a bit of a hue behind it. It comes in a flash and it just disappears quickly. And Mr. Gorgel nods his head down and he kind of steps right in lockstep with the party, making his way in the middle of the pack or so. So we have Ragnar up front first. Varys, I presume, is probably right with him.
Yeah, it's at this point in time that Varys actually straps his shield to his left forearm and sort of it's basically holding his he's holding his amulet as we kind of walk through.
Yeah, here we go again, right?
It's not our first rodeo, but
Yeah.
I'll be taking up the rear. I'll nudge the gnome to see break him out of his reverie and tell him we're heading in.
Cool.
Bill,
Yep.
do we see any, as we walk in, do we see any signs of like squatters, or does it look like it's just been
Yeah, there are some
vacant?
old kind of what look like cans of beans or maybe like fruits or vegetables or something just kind of littered around the place. What really catches your sort of eyes is the and I'll go ahead and drop this in. You guys can check out the Twitch over on your other screen if you want to see that. You guys sort of entering from the bottom of that image there. So what catches your sort of eyes immediately are just rows of these broken pews and ruptured marble tiling on the floor that just sort of broadly comprise the remains of the old St. Ethan's in there. It's really, really dark. Really, really dark. No light source. Gorgel actually lights a little candle and holds it, which really only provides about a foot of light in the middle of the party around you guys. Does anybody want to take out a torch and light it at this point?
I think, yeah. I've got a torch.
Yeah, you have a torch.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll light it.
Yeah, you strike that just kind of right off the chest and into the air, and you provide the group with several feet of more visibility there. You notice when you kind of hold that up, you see a platform with a damaged altar that sits in a high pile of debris about 100 feet across the room in front of you. You notice sort of as you turn to your right, and the torch and the candlelight from Gorgel and Ragnar follow that and track that. One of the main support beams of the building seems to be split about 3/4 of the way up. This is about a 220-foot high scaled ceiling. The structure is in no way safe by any means to roam within for too long. And you can tell where the area of the roof kind of collapsed and the storm struck it because the rainwater is just pouring right down into you, onto you. High up above sort of the wooden support kind of archway and atrium, you see sort of this fog and the moonlight starting to roll in as the storm dies down. And it thankfully provides you a little bit with some natural luminescence. It can also be observed at that time, though, when the moonlight kind of starts pouring in across and the clouds and the fog move. Ragnar won't be too pleased that there are several outspread, very thick spiderweb patterns and some sort of sacks and sort of balls on them that drape over the railings of the balustrade across the mezzanine in the second floor. You guys in the
do these look like cobwebs, like dusty cobwebs, or more like fresh kind of?
these
are being used.
Yeah, these are very active nesting areas.
I clasp my hand onto like Ragnar's shoulder for like support, and I just tell him, "You've killed bigger things than that. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. Be strong."
But spiders. Ugh.
Not my favorite either. But we have a mission. We need to get to the Lord.
Is there noise coming from anywhere around there?
You hear a little bit of noise, not from up above where you observe those webs, but scurrying sounds from the left and some additional scratching from the right of you in the main congregation hall. Tiny little claws, perhaps. With a unison cry of squeaks, you guys see a dozen or so huge rats appear from under the rubble and the splintered wood piles, and they have full intention, it seems, as they charge you to defend their home. So let's roll some initiative.
Yeah, I was going to say I prepped my bow, but
So 1d10, lowest numbers are better. Lowest out of the 1d10s will go first. And let me go ahead and roll for my rats. Okay, that makes sense for the rats. All right, who are my zeros and ones?
I'm a 0.
Okay, Lundy, you knock an arrow as soon as you start hearing those scratching sounds. You get into position. There are probably, like I said, about a dozen or so of them. You just want to start picking them off?
As soon as I feel like I have a clear line of sight and
Yeah.
Feel confident that I can actually hit it. So.
It's not your best day with this with the current circumstances. But yeah, you feel like they're about 40, 30 feet, 30, 40 feet around you guys. If you kind of step back, prepare yourself, you can probably pluck one or two of these things kind of right through the head, right through the body.
Oh, sure. Then I let loose.
Alrighty, let's do it.
Loose! I don't know what I'm shooting for here, but... that hits a 9.
So the first one actually will miss, just barely. Just barely. It's, you haven't had to flex in a little bit here and shoot anything. It just kind of, the rat sort of whips its tail around, goes to the side, and the arrow just skitters across the floor into a pile of the debris. And is that your turn?
Yeah, I actually got that wrong, but we'll just keep playing.
Oh, what was the result?
It was actually it would hit a 7. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so it misses the first rat, takes a weird bounce off of this chipped, uneven floor with all of the rubble, and it ends up clumsily, somehow, by luck, by fate, catching another rat in its side and just squeaks and falls over dead. So, not your finest hour thus far, but you managed to get the job done and pluck one of these things down. So, cool. Who are my 2s and 3s? 4s and 5s. 4 for Ragnar. Ragnar.
So I rolled a 14, so that's going to be an AC2, so that should hit.
Oh, yeah.
How big are these?
They're pretty big. I mean, they're like the size of like kind of a bowling ball, maybe bigger.
Okay.
Like they come up to like about your shin. Some of them even about knee high. They're really big.
Okay. So I'm going to attack it with Retribution, and that's going to be for 10 damage.
Yeah, you kill the shit out of that rat. Yeah, you just come down over full swing. You've just been waiting to destroy something, some form of opposition, and you just split this thing in two with such velocity and ferocity that this rat just splits in both halves and they just fly across opposite sides of the room. It's very over the top level blood on that one.
A typical Ragnar.
Yeah, classic Ragnar. Varys.
Yeah, I first of all like brush off the blood for that blood splatter there. But yeah, I'm actually just going to go ahead and just try to attack one with my mace. I'm just going to basically try to do like an overhand attack and basically try to get anyone that's close to me.
Awesome.
So that would actually hit a 0.
Again, just crushing it with the huge rats. Thank God that we're getting these rolls out of the way now, right?
Right.
So yeah, and guys, if you want to roll for damage for posterity for fun, if you're hitting AC zeros, you're probably going to kill the huge rats. Just letting you know. So yeah, you take your mace. And you just basically T-ball this thing up into the air. You kind of bounce it up like hockey players do at the end of the bill of their stick, and you just boom, and you just ping this thing right out into the opposite side of the church into the dark.
And pointing as it follows it, right?
Yeah, Sosa style as you just, a little Babe Ruth, just point the whole way off out to the decks. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like swinging the mace, just like getting ready for the next one. But that's my turn, yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. 6 and 7s.
I'm a 6.
Okay, Cal, what do you do?
Cal pulls out his sling and swings it around. Just tries to hit one of the rats with one of his bullets.
Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, that's a nat 20.
Oh boy.
That's awesome.
We're going to roll like shit later when it matters.
Oh boy. So yeah, everybody in the chat, hey, we have a couple dozen viewers online. Just taking this moment to thank you all. First nat 20 of Clock Strike 0. Woo! On a huge rat. Nonetheless, you fire this thing, and your bullet just takes its head clean off of its little shoulders. Its tail curls up, and it rolls over, and it dies. Just
Cal makes a little like, woo.
Yeah, you got a little click of your heel there. You're excited. You light up the pipe. But this fight's not over. Okay, that was 6s, right, for Cal? Okay, cool. So Mr. Gorgel is going to go on 7s here. he takes what looks like behind you, sort of in the middle of the party. He's very close to Lundy at this very moment in time, probably standing about 6 feet over, respectively, to his kind of extreme right, almost behind your shoulder, Lundy. But you see this glow, this blue shining glow, as he takes off the top of his cane, and this orb sort of begins to glow on top of it, and he just taps down on the split marble from the church floor, and it sends this blue shock of electricity onto the floor, killing instantly 4 more of these rats. They squeak and they just sort of flop over onto their backs.
I kind of look at him with some newfound respect.
He says, "Holy shit!" and kind of like, profanely like kisses his amulet, for.
So the rats do kind of each have their opportunity to charge in on you guys. There are 4 of them left. Lundy, there are 2 actually at your feet. They kind of head towards you first. You're the first one to strike one of them down. 2 of them immediately target you guys. Oh, and one does get a little bit of a bite off on you for 1 damage. The other one does miss. You just kind of almost push it away with your boot. So, all right. And Cal, you are not phased by 1. You kind of almost move away from it, and, evade this other rat. And then the final one on Varus. Varus, you'll take 1 damage. You take a little bit of a bite on your ankle as well. These things are just rather annoying.
Ankle biters.
All right, new round. Let's roll for initiative. Hey, and guys, thank you for chatting in the Twitch chat box. We've had a couple of weird little technical issues tonight, just with the overlay and the visual stuff. Thanks for the note on that. For some reason, our screen got moved, so I moved that back. We should be in good shape now. So thanks, guys. It's neat. I had to do a double take when I saw the AC, though. Not used to Thaco. Yeah, absolutely. Right on. All right, the 0s and 1s. Where are you?
0.
Oh, Varus.
Yeah, Varus is pissed. He did not like taking that bite, and so he just basically he's going to try to take his mace and try golf shot this this rat that's at his ankles.
Awesome.
So, all right, let's see. What would this be? 1 second. This would hit a 10, so I think that misses.
Yeah, that misses. He just scurries around you, gets kind of away from you. It's pretty dark still, right? And you have a big weapon and a rat that comes up to about your knee, and he just kind of scurries around the back side of you very quickly. You miss him. 1, 1s and 2s.
2.
All right, Ragnar, let's get after it.
Ooh, that's a 21. So that's definitely gonna hit.
Oh yeah, that's gonna hit the shit out of that rat.
So that's gonna be for 11 damage.
11 damage.
That's
Ragnar,
D8, 8 on a D8. So
it is just open season for Ragnar in here, and it is a very funny, like Quentin Tarantino level of blood just coming off of these huge rats as Ragnar is just goom.
But he's whistling as he does it, though.
Yeah, he's whistling while you work. I get what you did there with the dwarf thing. I see you.
Yeah, I didn't even mean that, but hey, I do now. I meant to the whole time.
Just take the small victory there, David. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. You absolutely crush one of these rats. You guys are down to 3 rats left. 3s and 4s.
Yeah, 3 here.
3 for Lundy.
So I've got still one of these at my feet, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to switch to a dagger then.
Yep. Yeah.
That'll take a couple segments.
You kind of start pulling the bow behind your back and realize while this little bastard is still attached to you, you're gonna just slip the dagger out of your boot pocket and just knife right through the head, hopefully. So we will get back to you in a few moments here. Cal.
Are any of them still at range? Or am I?
One of them is actually very close to you still. It moved in on you, but you moved away from it pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna switch to my dagger as well.
Yep, you and Lundy both look at each other, making eye contact across the church, and you both kind of have the same idea with the torchlight just fixed right into a pile of rubble right now, just illuminating this little rat battle site. if you will, and I won't. And you go to switch to your dagger. The rats are going to get their fair stake at trying to take bites out of your ankles, that's, as rats do. Ooh, and Lundy is going to be hit for 2 damage. Cal, nothing doing on you. And then the other rat actually scurries and runs away. The one that was sort of out there in front of Varys, it just runs away. It is pretty terrified that you've slayed all of its brothers and sisters. And yeah, I know. Battle! Victory!
That's right. That's our house. That's our house.
Mr. Grigel, the orb dies down from its illumination a little bit, almost like it stays at like flashlight level brightness. He doesn't really do anything. He just kind of stands back with his hands over top of his cane at this point. And that should be just about everybody. Why don't we go ahead and just round out the round with Lundy and Cal taking your dagger attacks against those rats.
All right. Me first?
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and I'll call on you, Lundy.
Nope. This one actually hits a 14, so.
Oh, that good, huh? All right, Cal, any more luck than Lundy?
Yeah, this hits armor class 6.
Yeah, you take your dagger and just goof, quick knife. You know, not like Ragnar's just having a field day and they're slicing up rats. You just quick knife in, knife out. You put the rat to bed and you move over to sort of make sure that everybody else is okay here. Mr. Gorgel comes over behind you, Lundy. You kind of miss in the dark, and you stab down as this rat's frantically pacing back and forth around you, trying to figure out how it lunges over the top of where your boot ends and your pant leg begins to get another little bite in you. He's been a little bit of a pain in the neck, and Mr. Gorgel comes over and just swipes him away with the end of his cane and shocks him. He seems to have some of the fur burned off. It's a pretty putrid and foul odor, and the rat dies. And
Lundy actually says, "Ha, take that, you rat bastard."
Drink to that. By the way, guys, on our Twitch viewers, thank you so much for tuning in for Clock Strike Zero. We are Minor Realm Games. We deeply appreciate follows. Dave will take a shot every time one of you guys follows us. So.
I should probably go get the bottle of bourbon now, eh?
Yeah, so you get to see Dave get really really loose.
Launching TwitchBot.
This was our plan all along. No, but thank you guys for sticking around. I see a couple dozen of you out there in the world right now that have decided to stick around and tune in with us. Mr. Gorgel is walking in the church with you guys, sort of looking around, and that's when the howl of the wind starts whipping in through the roof, through some of the exposed areas of the stone, and you begin to hear the haunting cries of what sounds like dozens of spirits within the church. And that is the point where, guys, we are going to take a 3 to 5 minute break just so everybody can refresh their drinks, do a quick bio break out there. So please stick with us. We're going to be playing for about another hour and a half at least tonight for you on this Session 0 episode of Clock Strike Zero, our new module. We will be right back in just a couple of minutes here. Thank you. All right, and welcome back, everybody. We just had to take a quick commercial break for you. I have to mute my background audio as not to get the delay, which is new to me. Thank you for tuning in. This is Minor Realm Games. This is Con of Champions weekend. We are playing episode 0 of Clock Strike 0. If you've been hanging in with us for the last hour and a half or so, thank you so much for watching. We're having a blast so far. We have more in store for you. So last we left off here within this church, this old abandoned St. Ethan's Congregation Hall, now known quite mysteriously and ominously by the town as the Haunted Halls. Our adventurers, with the help of a quirky little gnome that they met within the tavern that they're staying in, has joined them to help find this boy that may have wandered off into this dangerous place. Our adventurers have just encountered a pack of huge rats that have made the rubble and the debris of the collapsed pews and stone and artifacts in here themselves a home. If you recall, however, up above, there are perhaps other predators awaiting you as massive, sort of outspread spider webs continue to wrap around the remaining columns in the balustrade and the mezzanine sort of railing ways and sort of torch sconces up there as the moonlight continues to illuminate, just sort of providing a brief seconds of incandescence and sort of gentle and shallow white and yellow light against there. Your torch, Ragnar, was fixed into place in this pile of stone, so you guys had a light source while you fought off these little rats. And after you finished dispatching these sort of dozen or so huge, ugly, gnarly looking rats, you start to hear the howls and the cries that you were told about in Penard's Inn by good old Ivor. These must be the cries of the congregation that were slain by the cataclysm. One of, at least that you know of, or we're told about 3 storms that hit Blackworm, and was said to have been part of a curse here. That is what it's been alluded to. As you walk through the congregation sort of hall, you look around a little bit at the sort of altar area. There is a big statue with a broken sort of arm and half of the head chipped off of Saint Ethan himself behind the altar, and that is where you guys actually see that there are sort of stone steps, albeit sort of jagged, and parts of them completely crumbled and have fallen through, stairs that lead up to that second floor there. You don't hear the cries of anyone else, and very faintly, even the howls of what presumably are the ghosts occupying this place, but no sounds of a little boy calling out. What do you guys do?
Should we call out his name?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask the same thing. We should probably
I think
see
we
where he's
should.
at.
Yep.
Lawrence.
Say it with a chest.
Lawrence.
Oh, Lawrence.
Come out and play.
Yeah, you call Lawrence through the through the hall, and you don't hear any reply.
I'm not sure if we are.
Either he's not here or something terrible has happened.
I'm not sure if we're equipped to take on the whole congregation, my friends. I mean, is there anything, of a religious nature that looks like? You mentioned that the statue of Saint Ethan's was damaged. Is there anything like? Is there like an altar of sorts or anything like that?
Yeah, so that statue is behind the altar that has been broken, literally. The table and the sacraments that were on top of it, literally broken in half from stone and sort of roofing material that have fallen through on it. There is a sort of a vat of what looks like holy water still in there, but it seems to have been perhaps diluted by some of the rainwater that falls through the exposed open ceilings. You can tell that there's a couple of little drops pouring from the walls and some of the ceiling space over there in the overhang that are pouring down into it. It looks pretty murky and dirty, just from the little bit of light source that you guys have.
What I would like to do, if it's all right, I mean, I have this little flask, basically for an ale, like a wineskin flask almost, or I like to empty that out, kind of capture that sort of. Would you consider that to be like polluted water almost because it was once holy?
No, sure. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to collect a little bit just in that little flask that I have, or a little wine skin I think I have.
Okay. Okay.
I was kind of looking around just to see, it's not ideal now that there's the tracks and stuff from the rats in our fight, but he's looking to see if he can see any like little kids' footprints or something in the dust.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. With a keen eye, even with a little bit of light, you sort of spot that there are very visibly two little child-sized boot prints. They go up the first couple of stairs off to the right there. They go up about 4 or 5, maybe 6 stairs. They start to get a little bit more unclear. Your vision right now slightly obstructed just from the darkness, and they seem to just disappear as they go up the stairs.
Yeah, I point this out. If you take a look there, I think he might have been here.
Yeah, I'll examine the tracks with interest.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, I'm going to use that roll I did earlier
Mhm.
for the stonework, which was a 43. So.
Okay. Yep. And yeah, with the stonework, Ragnar, you know that one more good storm, even this evening, could end up knocking a big part of this building down with you guys in it. And so time is of the essence.
What
Lundy,
about our weight alone, just walking up?
you'd
Be sound enough for that.
You'd be sound enough for that, but you know, just the integrity of the bigger sort of building around you is this thing could come down at any time.
Yeah, don't be jumping on these stairs, guys. Walk with care.
Lundy, go ahead and just give me that tracking roll to track in urban environments. See if you, just from the scent of the sort of the woman and knowing that this is a small sort of human boy, you see the boot prints. You're the best equipped here to see if you can track where he might have been or what might have happened to him.
All right, so that's 65 right on the nose if we're doing urban.
Wow. It's like it was meant to be. Lundy, you feel like from your wilderness background and your tracking skill set that the boy very well may have been plucked off of these stairs and up by something. And if you're putting 2 and 2 together, might be something up there that's responsible for that nesting.
I definitely look up to see if I can see anything in the gloom.
Yeah, just lots and lots of these intricate, thick gauged spider webs up there, almost covering it like the top kind of corner where the two sort of pieces of the construction meet, like a canopy of sorts, obstructing the view up to the second layer.
Hey,
Well,
Bill,
I will let the party know that I say whatever got him came from directly from up there. Didn't take the steps.
Yeah.
how much of the structure is stone versus wood? Is there a lot of wooden?
A lot of the interior
here?
decor, sort of the confessional sort of rooms, all of that is made of mahogany and maple and cedar.
Like the actual structure, like
the ac-
floors and shit?
The floor and the foundation and the structure, that's all stone.
Okay.
It's all stone. Yep.
I want to set this on fire once we get Lawrence.
Well, if
Ready with
there's a
fire.
boy inside of it, that might not be the best idea.
I said once we get Lawrence.
Okay.
I mean, how about? I mean, it sounds like our plan should be just to get him and run away.
No, we need to. I want to kill these spiders.
Oh, okay. We'll kill the
Just by fire.
spiders.
Because kill them with fire.
Exactly. But so should we get? So we'll get Lawrence. We'll run away while you set fire, and then.
Yeah, behind us. Send it behind us. No one uses
Okay.
this anymore, so.
I mean, you have a
what are we
torch, I
gonna
mean.
hurt but with the fire?
Right.
Exactly. I mean, torch put that to good use. So.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. So what is your marching order as you feel like the logical next step is to probably make the ascension here up these
Yeah. I'll be up
old
front.
broken stairs? Ragnar, you're going to probably lead the charge again, and Varys right behind him. Best buds. Lundy?
I should probably know this about Cal if we've been adventuring a bit together, but if he prefers to go in front of me or behind me, take up the rear.
I
But
prefer to go in front.
I can say that I can shoot over his head. So
Yeah,
you can definitely shoot over his head, and probably, honestly, Ragnar's as well. Varus might be a bit of an obstacle. Mr. Grigel is not going to get in the way. But Lundy, Mr. Grigel is very interested in staying in lockstep with you. He almost is side by side with you. He was in the entranceway of the old St. Ethan's site, and he is now up these stairs. Cal, you sort of take the cleanup position, and Lundy and Gorgel pick up the rear. You guys make the climb up the stairs. Ragnar his suspicion was true. As you get about halfway up, about 13 or 14 stairs, you actually find some vulnerabilities. They crumble a bit, and you guys are shaken a little bit. I need dex checks from everybody.
D20 and under. It's a 12 for me.
Okay.
9 for me.
Okay.
Success.
Yeah, it's a success.
think
I voted
5.
for me.
Success for me too. Yeah.
Okay. Who had the 9 would be the lowest there from
I had
I
a
got a
3,
5.
actually.
oh wait, what did Cal get?
3.
Oh, cool. Who had the highest value? Okay,
That was Ragnar.
Ragnar. No, you
Of course.
you actually, as you're saying, guys, we need to be quick and nobody make any careless movements. You take
Make a careless movement.
well, you just take a hardy step with your big old set of armor on and your massive weapon and your heft, and it's just a little much for these. At one time, you believe very incredibly well architected, but I've just seen so much damage. You fall down and you don't fall through, but you kind of fall off to the side, and it sort of crumbles into the wall a little bit. You bang your head and you take 1 damage. But you, with your strength, just use your axe and you just kind of climb your way back up out of it. But it's definitely a nasty fall. It's a concussion worthy fall.
Yeah.
Several feet. But you catch yourself, thankfully, and you pull yourself back up onto the stairs. Now leaving a big gaping, 3-foot wide hole in that space, and the stone just kind of hits the marble floor below in the main congregation hall, and it's really loud. And with every stone that falls down and just crushes and cracks across that marble floor, you hear ooh, more of the sort of cries of the old congregation echoing. As you continue to climb the stairs, you see the incredible detail of these massive and intricately woven and spun spider webs that drape across the sculptures, the balustrade, and the railings and the design work. Almost like really expressive tapestries, like I said, like canopies that you might find in like a marketplace. And as you sort of get up to the top there on the level, from the vantage point, you can distinctly make out 2 doors that are currently accessible due to all of the damage and some of the others being obstructed and blocked from the storms. Door number 1 is positioned at the west side of the building, so to your extreme right from the entrance from where you came, and it's a weak wooden door that looks like it even is partially ajar. It will require very careful effort to get there, however. From Ragnar, from what you just witnessed, and his wise word and stonework, you know that there are several gaps and areas of sort of breakage in the stone flooring from the destruction that it has weathered. Door number 2 is positioned fairly close to the top of the stairs on the east side of the building where you stand to your near left, and it appears to be secured with a padlock of some kind on a worn brass knob.
I call to Gurgel and I say, "Old man, you probably remember when this was still a used building. Do you know what these rooms are?"
If I recall, the door to our left, door number 2, I believe those were the priest's chambers. Door number 1, that's the sacristy area.
Say that again, Bill. Sorry.
It's the sacristy area, he's telling you.
Okay.
Storage.
Lundy, where do you go? Where should we go?
I personally, I kind of give Cal a meaningful look and look at that padlock.
Yeah, Cal's very curious to see the priest chambers. If there's
Okay.
anything good here, it's going to be in there.
Awesome.
Varus might even be able to get some new threads.
Hey, what's wrong with my threads? I like this.
You can always use another set.
I mean,
So-
they are bloody now, so no thanks to you.
There you go. Exactly.
So Cal,
Yeah,
you're gonna
so it's
grace
not
us. You're gonna grace us with a lock pick.
Yeah, I'm going to try to pick that lock.
Pick that lock.
That lock.
Oh yeah, that's a 16.
Yeah. So you certainly pick that lock, and with just a couple of very delicate and careful and precise maneuvers, where the howls of the congregation still echo down from the main floor below you, you hear the snap and click of the padlock dropping to the floor, and it conks down in front of the frame. And it's just a simple sort of pull handle from there to open and expose the priest chambers.
I beckon Cal to get back again to have Ragnar kind of clear the room, so to speak.
Okay.
Cal shrugs and backs away.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna ready retribution and slowly enter the room, just see what's in. Kind of peek in first before I fully enter. But
And I have my mace at the ready as well.
Inside,
if I don't
what's-
see anything, like I'm walking in.
you don't necessarily see much. You have your torch there. You see what clearly seems like the former priest chambers, a broken bed, and a desk. And you see kind of a wardrobe, a small chest in there, and there is a tapestry. Actually, speaking of tapestries, there is a tapestry in the corner of the room that is kind of just suspended there, with what you see like sort of a religious sort of imprints from the Enlightenment, the Holy House of Enlightenment.
You said this is Saint Ethid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah,
Who's all? Is everybody entering the room at this
Yeah,
point?
Ragnar.
Cal goes in. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of hovering near the door, keeping an eye both in and
Cal wants to go
where
take a
we
look
came
at
from.
the chest.
Yeah. Yep. Gorgel stands outside with you, Lundy, and you can see that blue orb on top of his little cane. It's just sort of very delicately pulsing, very, very subtly. It's almost just like it's just sort of kind of moving with the air and the sentiment of the environment right now.
Has it always been doing that?
It just sort of, per your perception on it, just sort of noticed it at the top of the stairs here outside of the door. As the rest of the party makes their way inside the priest's chambers, you kind of look around a little bit. Ragnar kind of waving the torch, as not to burn anything down this moment, although with the intent of perhaps later
Soon,
doing so.
though.
Soon.
Tonight.
Cal wants into that chest. So it is a locked chest, Cal. It is a good.
So I'm gonna. I know better than to just barge in. I'm gonna take at least a casual look to see if there's any obvious traps.
You are a little concerned with that tapestry in the corner. It strikes you as odd.
When
Just-
I look at the tapestry, do I recognize the? I mean, does it make sense to be here? I mean, this is Saint Ethid's. Is it in line with Saint Ethid's? Iconography?
Varus, you've been staring at. Great question about the iconography. You've been staring at this tapestry the entire time. You are very unsettled by this particular tapestry. This does not look like something to you that is affiliated with this church. Cal, you would notice it as well. You are sort of educated in this area, but Varus is attuned to this. He is drawn toward looking at this tapestry. Varus, you actually notice as your eyes continue to kind of follow up and down it, and Cal is carefully entering the room, just making very, very careful, intentional, thoughtful steps toward that chest. The tapestry.
Stop.
Yeah. Yep. What do you do, Cal?
This is not right. This does not belong here.
In that moment,
That is not Saint Ethid's.
in that moment, as you say, this is not Saint Ethid's. This does not belong here. You see the tapestry almost like vacuum seal itself to the shape of a humanoid creature, almost sucks immediately around it, and you see sort of a head start shaking in it, and it breaks into 1,000 pieces of little fabric, and behind it you see what could only be the specter of the priest that once ran these halls, and he comes at you with sort of these green glowing hands with these claws. Roll for initiative.
Gotcha. Okay. That's not.
0 is 10, right?
0 is 10.
Shit.
Well, 0 is like how we're. 0 is
Played
0.
it at 0 earlier
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
I think we played it high.
No, it's high. You only get a 0 if you roll a 1 and have a modifier.
that is
Yeah.
correct. That is correct.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was wondering how Varys might have got a 0, but
Yeah, that makes sense,
We'll persevere.
That's nice.
Yeah. So who are my 0s and 1s for this round so far? 2s, 3s. Oh God. Okay, Cal. You see the specter of the priest moving in on Varys rather quickly. Ragnar in the opposite corner of the room near the broken bed, and you by the chest. The spaces, we'll call it, guys, probably 15 to 16 feet in depth overall from the doorway to the back wall. Probably about 12 feet, 13 feet in width. So, Cal, what do you do?
So the thing's going towards Varys, and Varys is what, towards the front of the room?
You are actually approaching the back half of the room, probably about midway through where the chest is near the desk.
Okay, so I'm actually going to try to circle around behind this thing.
Okay, all right, you were going all in. The party sees that. You move in kind of against the side wall, creep, and almost hop over the cot-style bed and duck down and become one with the shadows and creep along the back perimeter wall. You almost disappear like for all intents and purposes, no pun intended, a ghost in this room as you kind of try to get behind where that tapestry was. That's a great use of your turn. 3s and 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s.
Wow.
Oh boy. Uh-oh. 8s.
Oh, damn.
Okay. Well, here we are. It is the.
Did we all roll 9s and 10s? All 3 of us?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Roll the 10.
It's going to be an interesting
Yeah, same.
conclusion to this first round. I'll tell you that. I will tell you that. So, the Spectre Priest, and by the way, just want to show this. I don't know if it's actually shown because of the artwork there. The artwork on artwork contrast with Zoom, but
Not really.
I'll show it afterward. Yeah, it's not. Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Kinda. It's not really showing up, Bill.
Oh, I can see it now.
Yep. Yep. So got
There we
got the old monster manual out for those of you watching tonight that remember that cover. It's one of my favorite books. So this thing's moving in on you, Varys. It wants you. You are a holy man yourself. He at one time was, but not in the same vein today. And he's coming in to attack you with one of these strokes of his hand. Oof. And he will hit, and he's going to do 3 damage, and it is a cold but yet burning sensation across your hand as he grabs your arm, pulls down on you, and just takes kind of 2 claw marks right on out of you. 8s and 9s.
9. Yeah.
Lundy, you're on the outside of the room. By the door, you see all this shit popping off. Gorgel looks up at you, like, kind of shrugs his shoulders. What are you going to do? What do you do?
Is there any way that I could actually fire an arrow into this 13-foot room or whatever?
You've been lining to shoot your shot for a few minutes. Yeah, you back up a little bit away from the perimeter of the sort of the door and the frame of the room, and you get yourself acquainted with your shot. You feel like you have one at this moment.
Well, then I'll take it, and I'll say, Rhynak, you're long past your shelf life.
Oh. Looking to beat an armor class 2. Armor class 2.
And that's what I get
For mouthing off?
Too
Yeah.
bad he's not armor class 9. 'Cause I would have
Yeah, you're past your shelf life. As Lundy says these kind of one-liners all the time whenever he's just firing arrows into dark rooms, and the arrow just clangs off the back and breaks against the wall. And a couple of you up front are like, "Holy shit!" And you like duck a little bit, like this thing just boom at several hundred feet per second just fires in and just breaks into several shards across the wall. Well done nonetheless. Gorgel seems like he's preparing something as he's kind of moving his hand in this sort of mystical way over the top of that orb, and it gets brighter and brighter. Lundy, you see that over to your near right now. Who are my 10s? Okay, Ragnar, or excuse me, Varys, I'm going to have you go first. Because you're currently engaged with this thing, and then we'll do Ragnar to close us out for the first round.
Real quick, Bill. Excuse me. I'm describe where the gnome is again. I'm not in between that glowing orb and this creature, right?
No, you are not.
Okay.
No, you're not. You guys are sort of side by side.
Wait, is Varys and the priest like?
They're almost.
They're actually engaged.
They're almost near grappled. Yeah, the priest is trying
Okay.
to pull Varys, and he already clawed him for some very cold and harsh damage.
Okay.
And so I actually begin my turn by actually sort of like separating him with my shield, taking out a vial of holy water, and beginning the process of casting protection from evil.
Oh yeah. And what segment will that go off?
4 segments. So basically, in the process, I'm basically just like sort of like throwing the holy water in like a concentric circle, sort of like immediately around me.
Mike, I'm going to put a D6 on my computer over here for segment 3 of the next round for that to go off. But make sure you prompt me, okay?
Will do. Yep.
Well done. Ragnar, close us out.
Is this priest ethereal or like? Is there a physical presence?
He's corporeal in nature.
Okay, so I am gonna forego an actual attack, and I don't really know how to resolve this but I want to push him away from Varys.
Okay.
Like just run and just push him.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead and just make me a strength check.
Cool. It's gonna be that's a D10. Sorry.
I feel like you might have more strength than the old Spectre priest, so.
That is a 14.
Yeah, that'll do it. You come in and you just full on left guard press and block this old frail specter of a priest over, and he falls against what looks like this old little beaten up bookshelf, and a bunch of books fall off of it, and he kind of just stumbles around and turns his attention over to the both of you at that point. Persistent. And his body sort of, you can see sort of the robes and the sacrament that he's wearing. They sort of start to float off of him. You see his eyes begin to almost bulge out of his head, his cheekbones sort of undulating, and his skin and sort of general aura turns green and bright. And it creates this really, really creepy sort of glow and hue throughout the room. Let's go ahead and roll for initiative again. Round 2.
I'll say my one-liner for that one is, praise be, asshole. God damn it, my initiative.
I think
rolls
Varys just saw like
sucked.
a blur. He just saw just like a complete blur as this guy just kind of gets just tackled down to the ground. It was awesome.
So I got a 9. I'm just gonna do a quick bio break. I'll be right back. But
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So who are my 0s and 1s for this round? 2s. Okay. 3s. Varys.
Yeah, at this point in time, I basically like toss whatever's remaining of the holy water of the vial directly at this thing. I say, DT, protect me.
Yeah, absolutely. You start doing a very quiet recitation of a prayer that only you and Ragnar can hear in this moment of chaos to cast the protection upon yourself and in the space that you're currently occupying. Probably good for you in that case, because the Spectre is very, very furious, and he sets out this loud shriek. Go ahead.
And I'm also going to try to make it so that way, if it's possible, if not, then that's fine. But I'd like it to that space that's protected also covers a doorway.
Okay.
Outside.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
way, if Cal or Lundy want to sit in outside the doorway or inside the doorway, they can do that.
I think we can manage that. I think we can certainly manage that. Absolutely. The Spectre is very disoriented at this point from Ragnar just shoving it. And by the way, a highlight of the night, fucking full on just shoving a ghost. Sorry for the cuss. That's hilarious. He begins to try to kind of raise his hand, and you see this green sort of fog coming off of it toward Ragnar's sort of face, like just kind of right on toward it. And Ragnar, you just sort of almost like blow it out like a candle, and just the sort of the green smoke comes up. It virtually does nothing, although he does sort of ready himself and put his arms up and kind of one over the other again. So who are my 4s and 5s? 4 for Lundy. All right, Lundy.
Yeah, so I'm slightly delayed in my reaction because I was kind of shaking my head going, shelf life? And, and I'll take a shot. Another shot.
Harris is still shaking his head from that last one.
Yeah, I like the chat right now. The thief is hiding, the ranger is shooting at birds, and the priest is throwing water. Confidence is not high with this motley crew. Well, shall we prove them wrong, gang?
I hit dead on AC2.
Okay, all right. Go ahead and roll for damage.
So, where'd it go? There it is. All right. That's a 6. Wow.
Okay.
It was this really cool emblem on the top there. I didn't know what it was at first.
Oh, nice. Right on. Yep, 6 damage. You hit this thing dead on, and it just right through the chest. You see, boom, the arrow sort of reverberating behind it, the tail of it, the feathers kind of coming off of it. That sounds more like Lundy at this point. Stuck this thing right in the chest, sort of right in its stride, as it's trying to consume the energy and the very life, it seems like, from Ragnar. Cal, you are moved into position where the tapestry was in the corner, and you are behind this thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna backstab it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so that would hit armor class -7.
Oh my god.
That'll do it. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this one up.
Okay, and then what is that? Yep, so that's max damage. That's doubled, right? So that's 8.
Yeah. If you want to describe how you kill the priest Spectre, now would be a good time to do that. You send him back to his grave.
Yeah, so he stabs right where he thinks like the lumbar spine is. Just trying to like, he's like, well, it would work with a living thing, so maybe it'd be good for it. It's about as high as you can reach anyway. So. Nice.
And by the way, Abby, thank you for the follow. We really appreciate that. Dave, you got to do a shot.
I'm not gonna do a shot. I'll do a big sip.
Everybody, yeah. Why not? Thank you, Real Abby Normal, for the follow. We dearly appreciate you guys hanging out and watching us play some Clock Strike Zero tonight, where we're playing fast and loose, old school AD&D, as you can tell from all the talk of Thaco and hits, whatever. But yeah, and the halfling thief backstabbing the hell out of the priest Spectre right through where the heart would have been, kind of puncturing where the lung area would have been, out through those vital areas. You find that this sort of chasm in this open space is in there, but as you slice down through, the back sort of opens up, and the ghastly sort of green glow kind of covers the room almost in this spectacular sort of starlight in a moment, and it just disappears, and Ragnar's sort of torch is blown out with it.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what an old windbag.
I see. That'll do, Cal. That'll do.
So, I mean, like, at this point in time, I'm sort of like trying to regain my composure, but I want to see what was on that tapestry. Like, can I get like a closer, better look at what was on there, what kind of iconography it has.
I
Yeah.
thought it blew into a million pieces.
There are a few of them sort of left intact on the floor. Just a few of them. You can collect them for now, but you'll want to piece them together at a later time.
Okay.
To
Yeah, I'll do that then.
sort of put it together what they might be, and Cal might even be useful to partner with on that. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, Cal.
You mean the big dolt with an intelligence of like low wouldn't be good on that?
Probably not there, Ragnar.
I will. Lundy will kind of take a quick scan out that door just to make sure that he didn't summon anything.
It actually quiets down a considerable bit in the main congregation hall below, but all of the sort of raucous and disturbances and reverberations, you see the spiderweb netting sort of shaking a little bit across the balustrades and the railings, and the little sacks and nestlings are sort of bouncing around and rolling in sort of their safekeeping area. And that's when you guys hear from the sort of the second floor echo from across it, "Help! Help!"
Ragnar's sprinting there towards the direction of the sound.
Maris is gonna like basically be ran Ragnar's heels.
It's over the it's over the other door at the other door. Lundy, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna, as Ragnar is running by me, just say like, now's your chance to get over spiders.
Yeah. The cries become faint, and they are ones of certainly a 10-year-old boy and a child in distress and agony. You can tell that they are of pain and they are of desperation. Ragnar, as you...
Do we have a good bead on the exact direction?
Yeah, it seems like it's coming from that opposite side of the mezzanine where the other door is.
Okay, so treacherous
Yep.
reversal there then.
And that is why I need Ragnar to make a dexterity check, as he is just charging through full sprint over to the other side, despite his intellect and knowing that this is not safe stonework to be running on.
It's a 2.
Whew,
It's the only time I've ever rolled where I feel good about a 2.
The rest of the party having kind of moving behind him, even Gorgel kind of picking up the pace a little bit, running. You guys see the parts where Ragnar is actually skipping and jumping over. You guys follow much of the same pattern behind him, albeit carefully. You are at a pace of urgency. And Ragnar, you arrive at the other door that is partially ajar, and you just push and swing it open, and it falls right off the hinges. The room where the sacrament is stored is pretty large. It's a tall room, probably 12, 13 feet in height, probably like a 20 by 15 sort of space. And underneath of a massive spider with these bright orange and green fangs and red eyes and black long hair and fur is a boy in a little vest and overblouse and little shorts, and he is being spun up into a web. Roll for initiative.
I'll say as soon as he breaks through the door and he sees a spider, he just, oh, fuck.
This D10 is getting put in jail.
Zeros and ones.
That's the third time it's actually rolled that. The first time I got lucky because I thought the 0 was actually 0.
Zeros and ones.
yeah.
Twos. Threes. Fours. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was a 2.
Oh, all right.
Got
Yeah.
ahead of me.
Yeah, Lundy, you feel like you have reasonably a chance to make a shot here. You can go ahead and take one if that's what you feel so inclined to do.
Yeah, right in the bright colors.
Yep.
That will hit a 6, so probably not.
An AC 6. That is not going to do it. That is not going to do it. Arrow again zings past you, Ragnar, and you're like, son of a bitch, like spider on this side. Arrow flying over the other side. Lundy zings another one wildly in there.
Get your shit together, Lundy.
They call me Trick Shot.
Ragnar, you had a 4, correct?
Yeah.
All right, you and the spider are engaged in the same segment. Go for it.
Yeah, so Ragnar's gonna like tighten his grip on Retribution. Just be like, fuck. But instead of attacking the actual spider, he's going to try to cut the line of silk,
Mm-hmm.
like the web
Yep.
that is webbing up Lawrence.
Give me an attack roll.
Okay. I rolled an 18, so that's an unnatural 20. It's more than
Yeah.
or less than
It's
zero.
it's enough to cut a spider
so,
web.
yeah.
So yeah, you just come through and you just slash the thing, breaking the connection and the strands from the web that's being sort of spooled up around young Lawrence, presumably, and the spider. The spider sort of rears up and puts its back legs firmly planted on the floor, steps and leaps, pouncing over the boy and onto you for some attempts at biting you.
This is not only Ragnar's worst fear, this is Dave's worst fear.
And it will actually sink a bite into you, unfortunately, out of its sort of 2 attempts at doing so.
Sure.
You will take 7 damage, and you are suffering from the effects of poison. You immediately feel sick and cold and nauseated as this thing lunges its fangs right into you, across your sort of your breastplate, where your collarbone and your sort of neck is there, right into your muscular trap, and it just sinks down as hard as it can, pressing on you, and just starts to try to drag you around like a dog in the mud.
Well, Lawrence is safe for now, I guess, right, guys?
5s and 6s. 5s and 6s. 7s. 8s.
Oof.
9s. Okay, Gorgel goes on 9. He seems like he's still preparing something of pretty epic proportions. There is a bunch of blue sort of fog that's just hanging over the top of this cane where the orb stands at the end of it, and he begins to step back from the room and kind of pushes it out straight in front of him. Lundy, you observe this pretty carefully. 10s. Okay, so we're gonna go with Cal and then Varys.
Yeah. So does Cal have a shot with his sling?
Yeah, you have a shot with your sling right now. Okay. This thing's pretty massive. It's definitely towering over on its back legs over Ragnar's height, so you can hit it.
I mean, I'm only like 3.5 feet tall.
Yeah, you're like 4 something. Cal's like 3 something.
Four,
so
4 and change.
yeah,
All right, that's the hit armor class 5.
that will hit. You can go ahead and roll for damage.
Okay. 1.
1. Yeah, this thing just hits one of its sort of. It's like you'll shoot your eye out, Spider. Just one of its many eyes are hit with one of your bullets, and you can tell that you put it out. So it's a direct hit, but not for any consequential amount of harm toward it. And then Varys.
A question about the layout of the room.
Yep.
Is there like a basically a fall, like from the bottom room to the top room? I mean, is there like a hole in the flooring anywhere?
There's not. That's a good question. No, it looks like the floor in here is relatively intact.
That's unfortunate. Okay, well, I'm just enraged after seeing Ragnar be tackled by this thing. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of Varys is gonna kind of, be a little bit heedless and just like charge this thing.
Okay.
And charge it and attack it with his mace.
Great.
Basically trying to do the exact same thing Ragnar did. Not exactly tackling it because it is a spider after all.
It's always a really scary moment when the cleric's like, I'm charging this thing.
Go, cleric fighter.
Exactly right. This dice has been good to me so far. So, yeah. Yes, I rolled a natural 19. So
Okay.
that would be a hit stacko 1.
Oh yeah, no, that hits. It hits armor class 1. Go ahead and roll for damage.
That would be 4 plus. This isn't considered large. It's medium, I take it.
It is considered giant actually, so you can roll giant
okay.
damage on it. Yes.
Okay, so 4.
It is a giant spider.
I didn't know that.
I'll chip another damage point down for you there for Cal's bullet. We'll say it had 2 eyes. Yeah, sorry guys. It's I should have been more descriptive. It is a massive spider, right? It's standing over the size of Ragnar. It's like 3 Ragnars. It is a giant spider. Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, nonetheless, Varys still does that, and like he.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like up to him, basically feels like maybe like an ant kind of hitting. It's like kind of like hacking into like a big tree is what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the total damage on that again, Mike?
4.
4. All right. Yeah, massive hit from your mace, from your mighty holy mace. Just kind of swiping up on the thing, taking out some of the sort of thorax and legs. Just going to the defense of your buddy, which is pretty noble. All right, guys. That's the end of the round. Roll for initiative.
A little bit better this time.
All right. Where are my ones? Where are my ones at? 2s. 3s. 4s. 4 for Varys. All right, Varys, you get another take at this thing.
Okay.
Yeah, choose wisely.
How when I look at Ragnar, how is he doing right now?
Ragnar's Ragnar's in okay shape visibly but
Okay.
yeah, inside he's not feeling great, but
Am I considered like restrained?
not at this
Grappled?
moment. Not a good
Okay.
question. Not at this
Okay.
moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
In
go
that
ahead.
case, I'm just gonna go ahead and just attack it again.
Okay.
This time it is. Please check. That's a hit stack of 4.
Yep.
4.
Yep.
All right. 2 damage.
2 damage. 2 more damage from the mace. Varys is going to town on this thing. Open season on this giant spider in there. Just swinging everywhere with his mace. And blocking some of the legs from touching him with his shield. Just kind of back and forth in sort of melee with this. And again, pretty heroic efforts.
I'm like back.
yeah.
Because I'm just
This
constantly
priest
like,
is a badass.
Yeah. So that was, you were on 4, right, for Varys? 5s.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, Ragnar and then Lundy.
So mechanically, I'm not sure how to. What position am I in? Am I being dragged by it, or am I just?
You are not being dragged by it. It's let go of you, so you are in a position where
Okay.
you can fight back.
Okay, so I don't need to like stand up or anything. I'm good to go.
Nope, you're good to go. You're in full stance still.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna swing retribution at it. That's gonna hit AC 4.
AC 4. Yeah, that will hit. Roll for damage.
That'll hit?
Yep.
And it's giant, so I don't add my plus, right?
Right. For you don't. Right.
Right. So it's gonna be 4 damage.
4 damage. Wow. You take a massive kind of slice right out through the center of this thing, and a bunch of its kind of ooze and slime comes out. And you take several of its legs off. It is squealing and it's crying in pain. But you don't feel like you've slain it quite yet. Lundy, maybe you can
Yeah.
maybe you can provide some assistance.
Little air support.
Little air cover.
Incoming.
Everybody, get the hell out of the way!
Just out of curiosity, how far behind? I'm assuming it's behind the spider is the boy Lawrence.
The boy is sort of almost underneath of him, off to the spider's left from your perspective.
Okay. All right. Well,
Lundy,
guess
look,
more.
squirrel. I love the chat tonight. Lundy, look, squirrel.
So I wanted to. That could have changed my plan depending on what the situation was, but no,
Sure.
I'm just going to fire another arrow. So. Yeah, I'll take that. That'll hit armor class 1.
Yeah, and roll for damage.
Another 6. Yay.
Another 6. Lundy, you have proven yourself very
Oh, wait.
useful.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's the same for giant. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you have the same for giants, for large, yes. You have proven yourself to be very useful, as this arrow fires at extreme levels of velocity, and it goes right through this thing's skeletal sort of exoskeleton into its sort of skull, and down through its sort of the center of it. And the front of your arrow almost curves in it with this great English that you put on it, from the sort of flick of your thumb that you learned in the Green Mount from your master. And it kind of comes out the side of this thing, taking one of the fangs clean off. And it falls and flops over to its left, sparing the boy and Ragnar from being laid upon. And its legs, its really long, sort of 3-4 foot long, curly, sort of hairy, grotesque legs just curl up, just like spiders do, on top of it. It shakes for a couple of moments with its death knell, and it dies. the boy's mouth.
Nice.
How much? I'm gonna
Uh,
take Lawrence out of there, but like, how much around that is flammable?
So
Oh.
Hold on.
Gorgel actually calls in and says, "I'm ready when you are, Ragnar," as he's seemingly been preparing a massive fireball.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Lawrence
Wait.
out of there and just kind of like
I-
start it on fire.
Cal runs to the other room to open that chest real quick.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey,
that was-
Bill.
Yes.
Bill, I think you might have been leading up to this, but the reason I was asking about Lawrence earlier was I wanted to make sure you had a breathing hole or something.
Yeah, he actually good question. His mouth has been covered from the web, and he is struggling to breathe in these couple of seconds.
Well,
So
before Ragnar goes bounding off with him, I'm gonna.
Well, I
make
mean, I move him to the side. So
Yeah.
much,
yeah, you guys vacate.
Just rolling him like
roll him over.
You
Let me
get-
take care of him.
You vacate the sacrament and store area. Lundy, you take your dagger and you carefully cut this sort of webbing from the boy's mouth. He gasps and he falls unconscious, probably stricken with fear and also from exhaustion. You know that he's alive, though. He has a pulse and he has a very shallow breath. You actually find it, Ragnar, probably easier to carry the boy if he's still wrapped up in the webbing. Just kind of carrying him like a big sack of potatoes over your shoulder. Yeah, you just, and it's kind of got this adhesive property. It sticks to your shoulder plate, so you just kind of mount him right up on there, and you run with him. Cal, you head back down to the chest. You find two rare green sort of jewels in there, and you find 30 gold.
Nice. Nicely done, Cal. All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Yep.
Cal whoops with glee from the other room.
As
As we're leaving, I'm setting fire to all of the
yeah,
the webbing I can find.
the spiders actually do start to come and emerge out of the nests and the sacks.
Shit.
And there are hundreds of them starting to scurry everywhere. You just, Ragnar, you start setting fire to things up top. The rest of the party begins running as cautiously as possible down the stone stairs. And when when finally the party makes their way out, Ragnar first with the boy, and then the rest of you following in procession, Gorgel turns and he kind of does a quick sort of almost somber salute, and he takes the end of his cane and launches a massive series of blue fireballs into the church and just sets it ablaze.
Tantric
I'll say
fireball.
after seeing that, Ragnar kind of looks between Gorgel and back and forth. And is like, you know what? Maybe you're all right. You're all right after all.
Maybe I was more adventurer than I thought.
Actually, Lundy will say to Cal, presumably hearing a bag of gold pieces jangling, just say, drinks are on you, man.
Yeah.
Varys immediately goes to Ragnar after seeing him take that bite from the spider and tries to assess his condition.
Yeah.
Is he still poisoned at this point in time?
Oh yeah. He's very poisoned. Ragnar, you don't...
Immediately, without even asking, I cast slow poison.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good call because Ragnar, you do lose another 5 hit points in that time. There's some serious venom surging through your veins. You do not feel good. You feel weaker than usual. You're actually even sweating and struggling with a cold sweat to continue holding the boy on the way back to Penard's Inn.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Speaking of the boy,
Yeah.
I'm presuming that he doesn't appear to be poisoned.
The boy is not, no.
Okay.
The boy was
Ragnar
probably
does
dinner.
not let on that he's feeling. He's like, oh, I'm just. It's warm out. It's
Yeah.
You're sweating.
warm.
You're visibly
it's
sweating.
warm out. That's all.
It's the dead of night.
Yeah,
It's not
it's-
warm at all.
yeah.
There's no sun.
I kind of cover a cough. I'm fine.
It's probably 34 degrees, 35 degrees Fahrenheit.
I go to
It's
a
warm
Mr.
out.
Hotel,
Yeah.
and I'm saying, is there somebody here who can cure poison? I cannot. I do not have that. That technique is beyond me. Who can cure poison?
Gorgel,
Sorry, are we in the pub?
you are walking back.
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
Gorgel says, I will take care of Ragnar. We would need to go to my domicile after we return the boy.
I'd be completely in my debt. I'd appreciate that.
So you get back to Penard's. Ellie Smithton is her name, the mother of Lawrence. She breaks down and falls to her knees, just crippled. overjoyed, tears of sort of somberness, tears of joy and relief, and just a resounding sort of, "Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you," as she just kind of runs up to you and kisses your cheeks and shakes your hands and grabs at your shoulders. And Pinard comes over and takes sort of a chef's knife and just carves off the webbing of the boy. The boy coughs a little bit. He takes the boy over to the bar top, lays him down, starts ladling some cool water into his mouth, and he comes to. "Mother, what happened?" Said, "These men saved you, my dear. They saved you." And Gorgel just stands by the front door with his hands over his cane, with the screw top back on top of it, by the way, as not to expose the orb that you guys had witnessed before inside the haunted halls. Ellie turns back to the party again, having seen that Bernard is giving first aid to the boy, and she says, "Tomorrow, come to my home." She hands Lundy you the address of her residence in the residence square, and says, "I have a big feast, a breakfast prepared for you. It's my pleasure. It's the least I can do. We are a modest family, and we don't have much money to offer you, but please let me extend my gratitude in the form of hospitality."
We'll certainly consider it. I look at Cal and hold the piece of paper up and say, "How about them apples?"
That sounds wonderful.
I actually do tell Ivor. I say, "Ivor, you might want to, if you have a fire brigade, you might want to let them know that that old church is on fire."
Gorgel just kind of nods from the corner of the tavern, and Ivor says, "Gents, you know where to find your room. Go with the gnome. I'll handle this." And Gorgel says, "Yes."
Ragnar says, like, kind of like, "Oh, this all sounds nice," and just passes out.
Yeah, I basically go immediately to him and I say, "Do we have to go? We should go now. If we have to
Yeah.
go, we should go now."
Yeah, you guys are going to need to hoist Ragnar up a little bit, at least two of you, to support him. Gorgel says it's not a very long walk from the clock court to his residence.
I'll certainly help with that.
Cool.
Yeah. So between the two of us, me and Lundy, kind of like hoist him essentially to this place essentially. On the way there, though, can I just engage in a little bit of conversation with Mr. Gundy, or Gojal, I should say?
Yeah.
What is that? And I point to like his, wand. Is it a cane? That implement that he was using that was blinking and whatnot.
When you're employed for so long by a family with the notoriety and the connections that the Davisters have, well, you come into some interesting items year over year. I got this from the Sorcerer Kings of the North as a gift for a feast that I prepared for them.
Are they often like, wanting to give these types of honors to people? You just give them a feast?
Never, to my knowledge. Never.
Must have been one feast.
I'd say so.
Do you happen to have anything cooking at your house while we're there? I mean,
Oh, I don't eat much.
okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
As you guys approach Gorgel's house, you can see that he lives in a very little shack-like domicile in the northern half of Residence Square. It resembles that of a rundown sort of studio apartment once inside. It's very nondescript and fairly featureless. A cot, a sad little footlocker, a pantry, and an end table make up the major contents of the dwelling. Gorgel tells you guys sort of more significance of the sort of what's going on in the town. That things like you encountered and you experienced this evening, they're not super odd or unfamiliar for this time of the year. And in fact, Blackworm sort of prides itself on these things not getting out, news not breaking out into other parts of Ziaris. They pride themselves on being a noble and sort of rigid and proper people, but the likes of it are that each fall, each autumn, it gets worse and worse and worse. he goes over to the pantry and he pulls out an interesting little vial full of sort of sand-like sort of powder. It's pink and it's white with little crystals and kind of little gems in it. He takes it over to a mortar and pestle with a pail of what looks like lukewarm sort of water, and he begins sort of just mixing it up. And he puts little bits of seeds, what look like seeds and sort of minerals into it, and he mixes it and mixes it, and makes it into almost.
Is this fantasy Pepto?
Does Lundy recognize any of this, like from the forests and whatnot?
This is not a natural remedy. This looks very much manufactured and alchemical in nature. You recognize some of the seeds and things. Like there are some sort of herbal and sort of grain-like things that he's putting in there, but you get the sense, Lundy, that because you know that those don't have any particular healing properties to them, that he's more doing it for flavor, just for like sort of the taste of it, like peppercorn type flavor is what you see coming from there, and he's grinding that up, and it forms almost like this thick, partially sort of dried oatmeal, and he brings it over to Ragnar, opens the lad's mouth with a big spoonful, and shoves it in there, and begins massaging the throat, almost like when you give a dog a pill. To get him to swallow. Ragnar kind of comes to a little bit and swallows it. Ragnar, it's disgusting. It tastes like mud. I mean, it tastes horrible. But you feel your temperature starts returning to normal. The tremble and the aches in your bone and the fatigue, that all sorts to kind of lift from you. And you just see Mr. Gorgel's little smile, that half smile again, as he takes a pipe out from his overblouse. He strikes a match to it, and he says, "This might be the beginning of an interesting friendship." And that is where we will end tonight's session.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Thank you all so much out there in the Twitch universe for hanging out with us at Mighty Realm Games all day today. Lots of cool, more content coming your way. It's been a long day of me talking. I'm starting to lose my words at this point, but I will have more seminars coming for you guys next week, podcasts that are going to be out on YouTube and Spotify in the coming weeks, and more Clock Strike Zero to follow in about 2 weeks' time from now, right here on our Twitch channel. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for the length of things, and we will see you all next time. So from the Minor Realm, I'm Bill. These are my best friends. We bid you a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.